Hey everyone, I'm Michelle, and I know it's been a while since I've posted on here, and some of the things I've been posting lately have had to do with my health as well as sometimes homestead stuff. But I wanted to talk to y'all today about a parasite called Giardia. The reason I want to talk about it is because I was diagnosed with SIBO, which is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, and I am on a Facebook group where a lot of people share their SIBO symptoms, as well as they bring up Giardia a lot. And so I was like, let me just dig more into this. And if you have SIBO, this might be really interesting to you because it could be the cause of your SIBO. So Giardia is a parasite that lives in the small intestinal tract, and basically you get it from like contaminated water, poop, you get it from diapers, if you work at a daycare, you can get it through, it's like, could be sexually transmitted. There are several different ways, but basically when you ingest the Giardia, it's in a cyst form, and then it turns into a protozoan, which is just another way of saying it turns into a mobile form of Giardia, so it's able to move around in you. So something really interesting about Giardia too is it's very hard to detect, because if you submit a stool sample, due to the life cycle of Giardia, you do not always have protozoans coming out, and they can come out in a cyst form. And in order to detect that, as far as I know, veterinarians have a really good way. I am not sure if that crosses over into the modern just human medical field and the tests they run. But if you have submitted tests for Giardia and you've gotten a negative, it could be a false negative, you actually have to submit several days of stool samples in order to completely rule it out. And I'm not sure if doctors are even willing to give you that many tests. But Giardia can cause symptoms that are very similar to SIBO, and I know when we read things online, when we do our research, that doctors will say, well, if you have Giardia, these are the symptoms you have only. And then you have people who have a few different symptoms, and so, oh, it can't be Giardia. However, everybody's body is different, and if we only accept one and don't look at a broad spectrum, we tend to miss diagnosing people with the proper diagnosis. And so I'm going to share with y'all the symptoms that I have had, because they're very different in some ways from the ones that are common with Giardia. And one of the more common one is that you tend to have watery stools. You also have separation of the oils, and then you have poop that floats. Like, I have none of that. I have the opposite, and I have had constipation, no trouble digesting fats, no floating stools. Something else that's common that I do have is it's foul smelling stool. However, I would just say, I mean, all stool is foul, but mine has a different smell, and I would categorize it more like a chemical. And I even asked my daughter one time, was like, very embarrassing, but you know, do I smell different because I smell something different? She says, yes, I've always thought you smell different compared to everybody else when they come out of the bathroom. And so I was like, so it's not just in my head. So another symptom that is common is to be gassy. I actually struggle the opposite. I do not pass gas the other way, but I belch a ton. And so it's just, again, it's a different type of gas, I guess. Stomach cramps, pain. I will say occasionally I get stomach cramps, but I have a friend who, her and her friends contracted Giardia from a dog, and they knew because the dog was tested and it tested positive, and they started having symptoms. However, some of their symptoms were different, where you had some that leaned towards me, and then you had some that leaned towards the other one who had diarrhea, the poop separating from the fat and all that stuff. But one thing that they had in common, which I have, is that I get a pain near what I would call my right ovary, and it just aches. And that was something that they also had. I thought that was interesting because I always maybe thought, you know, it was attributed to my actual ovary, but there's no other reason for that to be happening. And so something I did was I went ahead and I asked my practitioner if she would treat me for Giardia using a common medication known as metronidazole. And I think I took the treatment, it was 7 or 10 days, I can't completely remember, but when I was done, my symptoms of the SIBO weren't there. And then slowly over another 7 to 10 days, the symptoms started to come back. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting, because if you have animals, you live on a farm, you know to treat an animal for parasites, especially if they have an overload and they're sick. Well, you're supposed to do it again in another 7 to 10 days, because the eggs need to hatch, and then you have more parasites that exist now and you're going to kill them. Well, it would make sense, I think, to take the metronidazole for however long the first period is, and then 7 or 10 days later to take a second dose. However, I am trying something different because we're on Christmas break, and so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to try and treat it myself using herbal remedies. And so I started taking wormwood, and I basically just bought a big bag of wormwood that's just been shredded and it's in pieces, and I eat about half a teaspoon 2 to 3 times a day. And I think I've been doing it now for about maybe 5 to 6 days, and my symptoms again have regressed. I did not test myself for Giardia or ask to be tested. I was like, hey, let's just try this, because we tried a lot of other things that are recommended to treat SIBO, and I have not had any success whatsoever. And so, like I say, now that I have been doing the wormwood, I'm going to continue doing it probably for 3 months, because I also have Lyme disease, and my research shows that wormwood can heal your Lyme disease. And so I have no symptoms for my Lyme disease right now. I'm doing pretty good. It's just this SIBO that I feel like really messes with me, because I gain weight also from having SIBO, and that's typically the opposite of what happens when you have Giardia, is that you tend to lose weight. And like I said, I'm gaining weight. I'm probably about 15 pounds overweight, or where I'd like to be, and I literally gained 5 pounds. I literally gained 5 pounds like out of nowhere, which was really weird for me, because I'm really careful with how much I eat, and having SIBO also doesn't allow me to eat a lot, because I tend to get bloated and I just can't eat anymore because I feel full and it feels like it's hard to breathe. So I'm going to include some links down below if you're interested in reading some articles about Giardia and the symptoms. One of them is from a veterinarian, and like I said, I feel like they have some really good information, and I hope one day that veterinarians will, you know, start working with GI doctors and kind of give a little more input into parasites, because I feel like those are overlooked a lot. So as of right now, I am just taking some wormwood, and then I am taking a few supplements that have more wormwood and a few other antibacterials. And I'm just going to continue on my treatment and see where I end up. But I was really interested in this, and I feel like it's a really good trail to go down. If you have SIBO and if everything you're trying just isn't working, maybe you can kind of look into some of the things I'm saying, and maybe it's Giardiasis. All right, guys, I'll see you on my next video. I don't know when that will be. Y'all take care. Bye.